I think this is a kitchen confession that we can all relate to because we've all faced this from time to time throughout our life. And this kitchen confession is that plant-based is expensive, I'm on a budget, and therefore I can't afford to stick with a healthy, whole food, plant-based diet. Nothing can be further the truth. And there's always something to remember with this, in that you should never mistake wellness as a luxury. It's simply not true. Now, I know we have all had a point in our lives where suddenly there's a season that comes in and we feel that we just can't afford to stick with a healthy diet. When you go in and you take a look at the prices of certain foods, and it's almost a sticker shock in that how are you ever going to fill your cart with high quality food when you have all these other bills that you need to pay at home? And especially when you start getting into some of the more newfangled produce items, maybe some things in the frozen or even the refrigerated section. A lot of the new things that are just coming out into the environment now, into your grocery store or farmer's market, can seem almost overwhelming, especially when a lot of the stuff on your grocery shelves or again at the farmer's market seem to be, at the top of the budget line. You take a look at the prices, and again, how are you going to add all this up? Especially if you have some of the other stories playing in, like you fill up your refrigerator and just kind of abandon it all week, and you're not using all the produce and the other things, fruits and vegetables that you're purchasing in order to make efficient and very high quality meals. So when all of this adds up, again, it can become almost like a mindset issue of, how am I going to afford this? And where is the money going to come for me to keep filling up my cart with all of these, maybe even wonderful looking produce items? And yet, how are they going to fit into the budget? The truth is that the most powerful foods, the powerful resources that you can purchase, are often some of the most affordable. Let's talk about beans. If you've ever priced beans, whether canned or dried is a very effective way to buy beans by the pound and have them available. They last for months and years depending on how you store them. Or let's talk about grains. There is so much more to life than just rice and maybe quinoa. If you get into the ancient grains, there's so many different grains that you can buy and store on your shelf. There's even tricks to that if you come in and actually read and watch some of my other videos, I go through all kinds of tricks in which you can store and make all these types of food last even longer. And then there's also root veggies. If you've ever bought large bags of sweet potatoes or carrots or potatoes and onions, all kinds of those, they're very effective to add to your entrees that you're building, to your recipes that you're making. And they're one of the most affordable items you can actually purchase. And then, of course, there's also seasonal produce. I think we tend to forget that when we go through the grocery store, we see all of this wide variety of produce, fruits and veggies, and they're available to us year round. And that comes from shipping it from other places in the world. Because if you stop and think about what is available in your local area in June versus in January, you'll quickly see that there is a wide difference between seasonal produce, what you can purchase in June versus what you can produce in January. And what you'll also find is the prices of those items go up and down according to the seasonality. If you can grow it right in your local garden or in your local community where you can buy it from a co-op or even a farmer's market, depending on how you shop, it's going to be much more affordable when it's in season. And there's a lot of great ways that you can build your meals specifically around the seasonality of food. You just take a look at what they're putting on sale, what is in abundance, and you use that as you plan out your meals and as you pick the recipes that you're going to use throughout the week. I think it's also important to remember that real life cooking, real life eating whole foods is not about creating YouTube videos or putting your favorite dishes on Instagram. This is not creating a pantry that you're going to create, other people's images from, or even, produce influencer pantries, something that is going to make your kitchen stand out and be beautiful. To me, the very best kitchen, how I bring joy into my own kitchen, is that it's well stocked for the things that I want to make, that I want to produce, and that what leads to producing a great recipe, great food for me and my family throughout the weeks and the years. If you can do that, and if you can be happy with what you're producing and what you're making and what you're cooking and what you're eating, that is truly the function of gorgeous wealth. So let's dive a little bit deeper into the concept that plant-based is uber expensive and that it's not something that you can sustain on a budget and on a weekly, monthly, and yearly basis. Because that is a myth that plant-based is pricey and that you can't afford to do it. And a lot of it comes from a mindset issue. When you're used to producing things the way you've always done it, it can be hard to make that switch over. And I will use a classic example from right here this year, which is a carton of eggs. Now, we've all joked throughout the year about how expensive a carton of eggs is. Go to the grocery store, and if you can find them, again, sometimes it feels like you have to take out a loan in order to even afford eggs. And I think the thing that I always laugh at when I'm looking at recipes that are circulating regularly is how many eggs, maybe even in baking items, that you use, 2, 3, 4 eggs, depending on what you're making. And I myself have not used eggs in decades. I was never an egg person in the first place. And once I started learning how to maneuvering and use cost-effective ways of replacing eggs, it just became a no-brainer and became so much easier to add to my pantry and to cook. So let's talk about what I use for eggs. One of the biggest things I use is whole ground flaxseed meal. Love this product. It's something that I keep in my freezer to actually, again, prolong the shelf life of it. And wonderful, wonderful tool to use in that for every egg in your recipe, you simply use a tablespoon of flaxseed meal mixed with 3 tablespoons of water. You leave it set for 5-10 minutes or so, and it kind of comes together and it produces the same qualities that you will find in an egg for your baking. So that's for your cookies and your cakes and your breads and all the good stuff that you like to create for dessert. Again, this is something I have used for years. There are other egg replacements out there, but I will tell you that a bag of this can last me for months with the amount of cooking that I do. And compare that to the price of eggs, right? Big, big difference. So even just one tool like that, just one resource, can completely flip around the way that you're thinking about how you produce, how you buy your ingredients, and how you produce your food. So this is about shifting your mindset from how you're buying things, from where you're shopping, and what you're keeping in your pantry, and how you make that more effective and more easy to use the ingredients that are good for you as well as good to store. Some of the other things that I like to do is, again, buying in bulk is just a wonderful way of shrinking the cost of what you're using. And there is so much involved in whole food eating. Again, remember, the key to whole food eating is you want to get as close to one ingredient as possible. So with that, when you're shifting your pantry from traditional boxes that you might find on sale at your local grocery store for, those $99, $1.99, $2.99 specials or BOGOs, buy one, get one frees. When you're shopping in bulk, you tend to be able to get even better ingredients that you can buy, in larger quantities, put them on your pantry shelf, and you can utilize them again and again. Some of the things that I like to use in this instance, again, are dried beans, dried grains, lentils. Lentils are a wonderful source of protein that you can buy in bulk. I love to buy all the different flavors, all the different shades from red to green to black, all kinds of different things that you can leave on your shelf. Use sparingly throughout your cooking methods. And again, it's a very easy way to incorporate some lower cost items into your meals while getting a boost in your protein, a boost in vitamins and minerals, and all the different things that your body needs. Remember, for me, it's always about trying to eat as clean as possible. And for that comes down to one ingredient. If you can look at the bag or the box or whatever it is, however it is that you are purchasing your food, one ingredient tells you exactly what's in there, not all these ingredients that you simply can't read and simply can't pronounce. Remember that the idea of sticking to a plant-based or a whole food diet is ultimately about mindset. You've been trained on one way of eating, one way of cooking, one way of processing, one way of buying the foods that you keep in your refrigerator and in your pantry. And that's not something that comes easily. It's not something that's going to come overnight, because it's so much easier grabbing a traditional recipe or listening to all the different people out there sharing ideas that tend to be a little bit more traditional, things that you grew up with. Maybe things that your grandparents or your parents put on the table regularly. And now all of a sudden, instead of, again, producing something with eggs, instead of baking cookies with eggs, you're having to shift just a little bit and look at things differently. But I promise you, once you do, again, it's so easy just to make that conversion in your head and use the ingredients that you have on your pantry shelf, that you have in your freezer or your refrigerator, and you make it a little more healthy, a little more beneficial for your body. You're bringing in better nutrients, as well as ultimately, when everything is in your refrigerator and pantry, you're saving money too. And I think that's what I really like about this, is when you have the tools, the resources, when you've made that shift, that mind shift in your mind, in your brain, and you understand how to put these types of things into your daily influence, into creating healthy and nutritious breakfast, lunch, and dinner meal plans, it becomes that much easier on your health and on your budget. Now, you don't need to go with fancy superfoods in order to build a healthier environment, in order to build your gorgeous wealth. What you need is just a simple ingredient pantry list, something that just gives you the resources that you are going to need to produce healthy, whole food meals from this point forward. This is about nourishing who you are, nourishing your body, and ultimately nourishing your pocketbook too. This isn't something meant to take away from who and what you are. This is meant to increase longevity, increase the way you feel, and increase the way that you're producing your food. Once you put all this together, you're going to love what it does to your kitchen and to your health.